Hello there, I am Dr. Shweta Bhatnagar from Department of Commerce, and as you have read the title of the video, we are going to talk about correlation. Correlation, let's break the word and understand. Co means together, relationship means association between two or more people, variable or things. Now let's understand this concept of correlation in a little simple way. There are four main types of relationships that exist. One-to-one relationship, your relationship with your colleague, your best friend is one-on-one relationship. One-to-many, my relationship as a teacher with the group of students in my class. Many-to-one, students related to me in a particular class, and many-to-many means a particular class of students having 10 teachers teaching them. The concept of correlation is very important in terms of academic research and in terms of business analysis and decision making, where we talk about associatedness of two or more variables with each other. Correlation in academic terms is used with regression. The two are used together. The question might arise in your mind, when regression analysis exists, what is the use of correlation analysis? In the beginning itself, let us differentiate the two important terminologies from each other. Correlation measures the degree of association of two variables and the extent to which they are related and the direction in which they are related. That is what correlation is. Whereas regression measures the cause and effect relationship between the two variables. The outcome of correlation analysis is a single numeric statistic, whereas regression produces an equation between the two variables, the dependent variable and the independent variable. Defining correlation in simple terms, as you can see on the screen, correlation analysis deals with the association between two or more variables. Talking more about correlation, it is a linear association between two or more variables. Correlation analysis shows the strength of association of two variables and also the direction of their relationship. By direction I mean, if one quantity changes or increases, the other quantity will also show the same direction of change, that is increase. Whereas if a particular quantity decreases, the other shows the decrease. This is called a direct change between the, or direct association between the two variables. There is an inverse relationship between the variables as well. That means if one quantity increases, there is a decrease in the other quantity and vice versa. Correlation is denoted by an alphabet called small r that shows the numerical value as well as the sign associated with it shows the direction of association of the two variables. Since we are saying that it measures the magnitude and the direction of association of two variables, let us understand how do we interpret the values of correlation coefficient. The value of coefficient of correlation ranges from +1 to -1. It also tends to be 0. Now 0 indicates that there is no correlation between the variables, whereas the value +1 and value -1 indicates the perfect correlation between the two variables. Now there is a sign attached I am talking about. Plus means positive correlation, that means the quantities move in the same direction, whereas minus indicates the inverse relationship. That inverse relationship is indicated by the minus sign of r. Now we are going to talk about three important methods of calculating correlation coefficient. These methods are scatter diagram method, Karl Pearson's coefficient of correlation, and Spearman's rank correlation method. The first method is scatter diagram method. Pictures are the most easiest way to depict the relationship between the variables. Here on the screen you can see four different figures that are depicting the relationship between two variables x and y. The first figure shows a positive correlation between the variables. As you can see that the variable x and y, they are plotted on the graph paper and there is a positive change in the value of x and y paired together. The slope of the line is moving upward towards the x-axis. Now in the second figure, when we plot the pair of values of x and y, there is a downward sloping line which you can see. This shows that there is a negative correlationship between the variables, negative linear correlationship, because the line is shown between the pair of values of x and y. The third figure, as you can see, there is not a line but a curve which is there. So this is a non-linear relationship. But how does the curve slopes? It slopes downwards. So that shows negative non-linear relationship between x and y. And finally, if you see that last figure, there is a cluster of values. There is no definite pattern in the form of curve or in the form of straight line. That indicates that there is no correlation between the values of x and y. The next is understanding the properties of R. It is very important for you to understand that what properties correlation coefficient possess, because you need to draw meaningful conclusion out of that. So the first property of R is that its value ranges from +1 to -1, and we draw our conclusion accordingly. That we'll discuss in some time from now. The second property says that it is independent of the origin. If you shift the values or interchange the values of x and y for each other, the value of correlation coefficient will remain same. The third property shows the association of regression coefficient and correlation coefficient. The square root of product of regression coefficient of x on y and y on x gives you the value of correlation coefficient. And lastly, regression coefficient is symmetrical, means if you check the relationship of x on y and y on x, it remains the same. Now let's talk about interpretation of coefficient of correlation in terms of its numerical value. I told you previously that the value ranges from +1 to -1. Now within what happens, how do you interpret within this range? We have divided the values of correlation coefficient into three categories. As you can see, the first category where we have taken the value of R as +0.70 and -0.70. This indicates a strong degree of correlation between the variables, and the sign plus and minus indicates the direction of that association, whether positive or negative. Second category where we have ranged the value from 0.30 to 0.70 in both the directions, that is positive as well as negative. This indicates a moderate degree of correlation between the two variables. And the third category of interpretation is when the value of correlation coefficient lies between 0 to 0.30, both plus and minus side, and this indicates a weak correlation between the two variables. We'll be talking about linear correlationship between the variable. As you understand, the word linear means it is going to be a straight line relationship between the two variables, and we'll be talking about two variables and they are associated with each other and represented by a straight line, that is y is equal to bx plus a, where y and x are the two variables, b is the slope of the line and a is the intercept. So dear students, in this video we have covered the basic definition and concepts of correlation, and we have also talked about different methods of calculating correlation coefficient and interpretations which will be drawn from the value and sign of correlation coefficient. In the coming videos you will see the calculation of correlation coefficient by the other two methods, that is Karl-Pearson coefficient of correlation and Spearman's rank correlation. Happy learning!